Hey, this is Kev with Blender Binge, back with another tutorial. This time, we're going to be creating a bowling ball and a shader to go along with it, procedurally. Because I was watching a movie about a dude who bowls and some nihilists and a rug, and I was like, I want to do a bowling ball, man. And you know what? The dude abides. So, here we go. So the first thing you notice about this scene is that I have no default cube and I have no light, because I deleted them. Ha! Before the video. So first thing we'll do is make the bowling ball. So I'm just going to go add, mesh, and choose UV sphere. Now, I looked around to see if there were other bowling ball tutorials, and of course there were, and some of them are really good. But I saw a lot of people using the icosphere, and it's totally cool because you can get nice round holes with that, but there's another way, and I did this in another video and I detailed it. And I want to bring that out again and show you how I'd use this to do a bowling ball. So check this out. We added the UV sphere. I said add UV sphere. I'm going to say segments. I'm going to double this. 64. I'm going to say rings 32. Enter. And what that does is it gives me nice subdivision here. Now here is where things get cool. And let me close this so you can start seeing my things again, right? Click off it. Click on it again. So what I'll do is I'll hit tab. And it gives me points. Don't want those. So I'm going to hit 3 on the keyboard, and that gives you this. You could also go and click on this for face select. And then I'm going to click over here somewhere and just deselect faces. So I'm going to enable a plugin. Sorry, this is Blender. I'm going to enable an add-on that is going to allow us to make the holes. So for people who've used 2.79 and below, you guys know this. This is probably old news to you, or not. So here's what we're going to do. Edit, Preferences. I'm going to go over here, Add-ons, and I'm going to type in Loop. And you see this, Mesh, Loop Tools. Mine is on because I played with it. But it's off by default. Turn it on and close it. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and select where we want the holes. So I'll start over here. So I'll hold down Shift, say 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll go over one row, down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll go up here, over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we got a selection. We have a selection. So what I'll do is I'll show you the mesh tools. They live over here. Here's this little arrow. You click the arrow, and you go down here to edit. And don't worry about all this stuff. I have some different stuff loaded up. You'll see edit. Click that. Loop tools. Open that. And there you go. We're just going to go ahead and hit circle. Booyah. Check that out. That's cool. That's cool. Just made circles out of our little square selections. Nice. So what do we do with this? Well, we can hit E on the keyboard while we're in edit mode, which is also the same as going to face, extrude faces. Okay, so we hit E on the keyboard once, and then we hit enter. E and then enter, or return. What that does is it extrudes it, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of keeps it on the surface. We want that because we want this to be nice and round later on. If you get squared off stuff in the next step, it is because you did not hit E and then return. Right? All you did was extrude, and then you just returned. You didn't extrude anywhere. It did extrude. It's just like right here. So then we hit E again, or you can, if you want to use the menu, you can go face, extrude faces. Okay, and then do that, and then you push it in with your mouse. So you roll your mouse and push it in. There you go. And I'm not going to worry about making that squared off inside. I don't really care about that. You're not really going to look in there. If you want to, you can square that off, but whatever. So now I'm going to hit tab, and there we go. Right? Holes in the bowling ball. So the magic happens here when I go over here to like modifiers, and the keyboard shortcut is control, like I can say anything, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to say 3, control 3, and it adds in a subdivision surface modifier. That's just so I don't have to go add modifier and look in here and you go, okay, so really easy. Now, it's nice and round. See that? We got nice round holes. And the topology is pretty nice, right? See that? Pretty cool. Doesn't even like sink in much at all. So it works. It holds the nice edge. That's the loop tools. It holds the edge. Okay, it holds the topology, the curvature. So while I'm here, render viewport is set at 3. Render here is set at 2, so I'll just match that so when I hit render later, I don't go, oh my god, it looks like crap, right? Just easy. So, we got a bowling ball. Yay. Now, let's do the shader. So what I'll do is I'm going to go to shading. I'll use a tab because I'm in 2.8 and people called me on, how come you don't use the shading? So instead of setting up all the crazy lighting and wasting your time with that, I'm just going to call in a scene that I made that has a backdrop and some lighting set up already. And we'll use it with that. And I'll show you what that is in a minute. So file, just go file, append, and inside, let's see, so I got Blender Image Assets, Studio Template.blend. And inside Studio Template.blend, okay, there's the blend file. Inside there, you see this folder system. Okay, a blend file is pretty much set up like a library of folders. So I'm just going to go to Object, and I'm going to add in all of this stuff, okay? Append from library. And that's how you append stuff. So if you guys want, I can do another video on 2.8 and appending if you want. Just hit me up in the comments and say, yeah, please do that. And I'll add it to the list. But I just basically called in a bunch of objects that I made that sat inside one blend file. And it's just lights here, lights here, lights here, lights here. And a duplicate camera. So I can select the camera in the original file that I had here and just delete it. And then if I hit 0 on the keyboard, there I am. And here's my little bowling ball just sitting in the floor. So I can just hit the bowling ball, go over here, and say Z1. Now he sits on the floor. And I can rotate him around a little bit. And there we go. So now what I'll do, we're in shading. We're in the look dev area. So I'm going to go ahead to rendered. And there we are in Eevee. So let's see. My world here is set at gray. I'm going to just take that all the way down to black. And I'm going to go up to Eevee, and I'm just going to turn on screen space reflections. Half res traces on. Turn that off. I don't really need refraction. I'm not really going to use it, so I won't turn that on. Shadows here, you can, if you want, if your graphics card supports it, high bit depth, soft shadows, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And now I'll just work on the shader. So our shader here, I'm just going to go New, and it gives it a principled BSDF shader. And some of you will notice that I have a little squiggly thing here. So if you hang around till the end, I'll show you in 2.8 how to get the squiggly thing too. But you got to watch till the end. That's the trick. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to start adding in a nice procedural shader. Like, I can get a cool bowling ball look just by going base color here and, I don't know, orange, because nobody ever uses orange. And I can say, let's see, roughness. I can turn roughness down, and we got a polished looking bowling ball. Or I can leave roughness up a little bit, and then I can take clear coat and give it that polished look. And we have something that is pretty bowling ball looking. However, that's too easy. And that's probably not why you're watching this video. So let's give it a nice procedural shader. So to do that, I am going to go and hit Shift A, texture, and I'll start off with a Musgrave texture, color to color, FBM, I'll change to, I like hybrid multifractal. You could leave it at FBM, it doesn't matter. And I'll give it some color now. So, well, first thing I'll do before I give it color is I'll map it. So I'll go add input. I'll say texture coordinate. For this, I'll just say object to vector. And then I'll go add. And I'll go vector mapping. Throw in a mapping node here. And now what mapping node does is it allows you to kind of rotate this thing around wherever you want it on the object. And that's pretty well set up. I'll change this to texture while I'm over here and push these guys out. Now a cool thing I can start doing here is I can start banding this and controlling it with other textures. So I can go add, and I'll say texture, and I'll say wave texture, and I'll take the factor of the wave texture and I'll plug it into the scale of the Musgrave texture, And now I have nice, cool bands. Nice. What else can I do? I can start messing with the distortion, giving it cool bands. I can mess with the scale. I can mess with the detail. And I'm giving it some really interesting look that looks very similar to what you'd see on a bowling ball, right? So, or at least one that was dipped in paint and then polished. And you know what, while I'm here, I'm getting these lights that are way too small. It's kind of annoying me. So I'm just going to go ahead here to my scene lights. I'll say area 1. I'll pause the video and just, you don't have to watch me do this. Okay, so I went ahead and just changed the lights a little bit. And now what I can do is I can start giving it some color. So I can go right in between here, and I can hit Shift A or add, doesn't matter. And I'm going to go converter, color ramp, and throw a color ramp in there. And what I can do with this is I can just start coloring, shading this. So here's my white, right? There's my white. I can make that, say I want, well, I'll start off with the black. And if I want, say, maybe a bluish ball, right? And I can add in other stuff here. So maybe I'll take this, make it kind of a, I don't know, that. I can add in this, maybe pull that guy down a little bit, and just start giving it a nice shader. And you know what, let me zoom in so you guys can see this better. There you go, is that better? Cool. And then I'm gonna hit this, maybe we'll go over here, maybe give this a, I don't know, kind of a pink color. I don't know, just making it interesting. And we're starting to get that cool painted, kind of dipped in bowling ball color. And also, being that now I have this mapping node in here, remember this guy? I can rotate this stuff around and change it. And what I also want to do here is I want to take this vector, plug that in here too, and it changes this, but now I can get a nice rotation, and I'll mess with the scale in a bit, but just find something that's, you know, relatively cool and go with it. So I kind of dig that. And I can play with the scale here too, and, you know, make it less, more, less. I can play with the scale here too and pull that out. So I have a lot of different options here on things that I can do with my bowling ball. What I can do also here is give it a bump, and here is where this clear coat thing comes in. So what I'll do is I'll hit Shift A, and I'll go to Vector, Bump, take Bump, Normal to Normal, and I'll say Shift, you know what, I'm going to use this Musgrave texture, take the factor of this, plug it into height, and now I'm going to get a bump. It's going to be crazy, but I have this giving me a bump, so obviously way too hot. So I'll take the strength down a bit. And now it looks like I have this shader, because you see these lights are still kind of perfectly, you know, they're not being distorted. Shader underneath this clear coat varnish. But you don't want it to be too much, right? So take it down a bit. And you can also play around scale and just make it something kind of interesting looking, right? And what you can also do for this is, polyurethane is its own kind of material, which is probably more similar to what we have set up here. But if you really want this to get kind of edgy, if you turn up metallic in this case, you start getting something that really looks, you know, like a highly polished, cool bowling ball, right? So if I zoom out here, you can see it looks a little bit better. And you can bring in the colors more. You play around more, bring in more of the white, and you start getting something that's really kind of interesting looking. And it's, I mean, metallic is like 1 or 0. There's no like in between. So, I mean, not physically anyway, but you're an artist if you want to play with that. I usually don't, but go ahead. And then roughness here. Okay, you can put up the roughness and start giving it that nice, really kind of textured look underneath your varnish or polish or whatever it is on a bowling ball. Lastly, we can play with the clear coat, because the clear coat is, I mean, these things are going to be roughed up and scratched. Now, you could go ahead and get a grunge map, okay, a black and white grunge map, and you can plug that into clear coat here, and it'll break up that and give it nice scratches and stuff. For the sake of the timing of this video, because I don't want it to go on forever, I can do that procedurally by just adding something like a noise texture in here. So I could hit Shift A, and I'll go to Texture. I can hit Noise Texture. Okay, Factor, plug that in here. Actually, we could use Color. Plug that into Clear Coat, or Clear Coat Roughness, I should say. And it'll smudge it out. But what you don't see here is we need a ramp in here. So Shift A, Converter, Color Ramp, throw that onto here. So see it highlights, just drop it on there. It automatically plugs itself up. And black will be really shiny, white will be less so. And with this factor, okay, I have color here as legacy here. You want to change this to factor, okay? Not color to factor, but factor to factor. And now if you play with this, okay, the roughness, you'll start seeing that you can break up, and let me zoom in closer here, you can start breaking up the roughness this way. And it's not going to really be scratches, it's more going to be kind of smudgy. So, like I said, if you really want to get crazy with this, you can go in and you can scratch this stuff up with actual, nice grunge maps, or you can do a scratch map procedurally, but that'll make this video way longer than it needs to be. So that is how I would go about creating this cool looking bowling ball. And if it's too dark for you, you can always lighten this up over here, and you start getting this nice bowling ball. Now lastly here, the paint is probably not going to happen in here. So what you want to do there is you can give this another shader. So what you do is I can go back into modeling or layout, either one, modeling, layout, whatever. Hit tab on the bowling ball, and let's take this off for now. So what I'll do is this modifier here, I can take that off, and what I'll do is I'll just select this. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to select all these. Okay, so I have all these selected. So I'll go back over here to materials. This is material 1. I might as well get organized here and just call this ball. And I can take sphere here while I'm at it, ball, right? Whatever. And I can add in. And so I'll say add new. This little. Okay, so material 1 here. I'm just going to hit that, and I'm going to call it holes. And then I'm going to hit assign. And that puts it on here. So now, if I go back to here, to the modifiers, and I hit this little TV, and then I go back to, let's say I look at this thing inside of layout, okay, inside of Eevee, I hit tab, and there we go. So there you have the holes. And you can play with the thickness here. You can go ahead and select more of these polygons, or you can add more edge loops and just really go into town here. But I'm for the sake of this video, like, I'm not going to worry about that. And the inside of the bowling ball will be pretty dark, so I don't know what really the inside of the bowling balls. Haven't really studied the inside of a bowling ball, but I'm just going to make it darker. There we go. And it doesn't need to be specular, I don't think, but I don't know, we'll just leave it roughness. I can turn it all the way up. There we go. Okay, so that's probably good enough. Let me hit N, and I hit 0, and there is a somewhat decent looking bowling ball shader. Pretty cool. Now, for those of you who wanted to stick around to the end to see our little shader here, right, and let me do this. Let me select the one with all these noodles. Here is how you do the noodle thing. You go to Edit, Preferences, okay, and you go to Themes, and you go to Node Editor. Okay, let me just make this bigger here. Scroll down, and Noodle Curving 1 is this. You could step it up all the way to 10. I don't know if it lets you go beyond that. It doesn't. 1, 0, or 10. There you go. There's your node noodle curving thingy. Probably do a video on that. I don't know. Now, let's give it a render and see what it looks like. All right, not bad. Not terrible. not great. You definitely want better scratches in here, but you get the gist. Okay, so here's how you would go ahead, make a bowling ball, give it a nice procedural shader, and play around with it. And the cool thing is, if I go over here to cycles, turn on GPUs so you don't wait, looks even nicer in cycles. Now, for those who stuck around to the end, I'm going to pause the video and come back with something really cool for you. So what do we have here? Well, for those of you who built this shader, you also have the very beginnings, and I'll stress this, very beginning makings of a nice little space scene. A gas giant shader. Same technique. So if I go here to shading, and I take this guy, make a few little changes on this shader, metallic, maybe take that down, clear coat, take that down, go to my light, okay, it's my sun here. I just use the sun just because you can if you want. Go to light. Let's see, I'm in cycles here. Let's go to Eevee. Let's see what happens. Okay, and I'll go to my light, strength. Let's see. I don't know. Turn that up. And the bump. Take that down, take that up. You start having the makings, okay, very basic makings of a planetary gas giant texture as well. So keep in mind, you're going to need to tweak the heck out of this and give it an atmosphere and a whole bunch of stuff. But this type of technique, okay, this type of shader would work decently for a quick and dirty gas giant type shader, or even cloud shader, planet covered with clouds, all sorts of stuff. And here's my sun. If I rotate this guy around a bit, let's see here, rotate him around. All right, you start getting the makings of something that is relatively passable. Like I said, you'd have to tweak a lot, but there you go. So hopefully you have gotten a few decent tips out of this, and if you did, hit like, subscribe, share it, and I will keep making more of these if you keep coming back. And for those of you who keep hitting thumbs down, know who you are. Actually, I don't, so whatever. But hit thumbs up, like it, and everything's cool. Keep coming back. All good. Catch you in the next video.